Okay, it being 5 p.m., the Lafourche Parish Council meeting of November 23rd, 2021 is hereby called to order. Ms. Carleen, can you please conduct roll call?
Yes, sir. Mr. Jones.
Here.
Mr. Adams is absent. Mr. Groh is absent. Mr. Melvin.
Here.
Mr. Wendell.
Here.
Mr. Araby.
Here.
Chairman Oten.
Here.
Mrs. Chesson. Councilman Lorraine. And President Chesson.
I'm here, Mr. Carter.
There he is.
Thank you very much, Ms. Carleen. With that said, if everyone would please rise, we'll be led by the invocation by Councilman Wendell, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance by Councilman Araby.
As we gather tonight as elected leaders of Lafourche, please guide us as we make attempts to move Lafourche forward. Hurricane Ida has affected Lafourche Parish. All have lost some, but some have lost all. As we enter into the Thanksgiving holidays, please allow for those who lost all to be thankful and be able to start making new memories that can be cherished following this devastation. In your name we pray, amen.
Amen.
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, I'd like to welcome everybody. I want to thank Mr. Wendell for his nice little reading there during the invocation. Well said. With that said, if anyone is wishing to address the council, there are blue forms at the front of the door. Please get them up to the council clerk. We'll be sure to recognize you during public wishing to address the council. During ordinances, I'll call 3 times for any public input on any of the ordinances, and resolutions will be reserved to just discussion among the council members. With that said, item A, approval of minutes. I'll now entertain a motion to accept the minutes of the November 8, 2021 special session. So moved by Mr. Wendell, second by Mr. Jones. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 7 yeas, 0 nays, 2 absences. Those absences being Adams and Groh. And item 2, I accept another motion to accept the minutes of November 9, 2021 regular session. So moved by Mr. Jones, second by Mr. Wendell. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 7 yeas, 0 nays, 2 absences. Those absences being Adams and Groh. Item B, we have none. Item C, are there any state and or federal legislative updates? Any legislators in the audience? I don't see any. Brings us to item D, presentations and or updates. None, Mr. President?
No, sir.
Item E, legal advisory report. We have none from the DA's office. And item F, engineers, architects reports. I see no engineers and or architects in the audience. Wow. Everybody must be on vacation. Item G, public wishing to address the council, public hearings, agenda items, etc. Ms. Carleen?
None.
None. Joe, you want to address the council? You can, just got to fill in a bill form. You good? I'm good. All right, thank you. Just didn't want to skip you. All right, with that said, brings us to item H, ordinances for discussion and ratification. Ms. Carleen, why is this one?
Because we already held it.
So we don't have to open? Okay. Item 3, ordinance to adopt the 2022 operations and maintenance and capital budget for Lafourche Parish Council, as well as setting the salaries of unclassified employees as provided for by Article 5 of the Lafourche Parish Home Rule Charter. Ms. Chesson will move on my behalf for the administration. And this was budget public hearings that were held at the November 8, 2021 Lafourche Parish Council special meeting and at the November 9th Lafourche Parish Council regular meeting. Can I get a second? Second by Mr. Wendell. That said, would anyone from the public like to comment on item 3, ordinance 3? One time. Anybody on item 3, ordinance 2 time? Last call for public on item 3's ordinance. Anyone from the council wants to discuss? There being none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Is anyone opposed? Motion passes 7 yeas, 0 nays, 2 absences. Those absences being Adams and Groh. Item E, public hearing and ordinances for ratification. I'll now entertain a motion to open public hearing. So moved by Mr. Wendell, second by Mr. Araby. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 7 yeas, 0 nays, 2 absences. Those absences being Adams and Groh. Number 4, ordinance accepting the subdivision known as Resubdivision of land owned by Kent Bouvier into the parish system. So moved by Mr. Melvin for the administration, second by Mr. Lorraine. Would anyone from the public like to comment on item 4's ordinance? One time. Second call for public 2 times. Last call for public on item number 4's ordinance. Anyone from the council would like to discuss? All right. Anyone else wants to discuss? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes with 6 yeas, 0 nays, 1 abstention, that abstention being Mr. Jones, and 2 absences, that being Groh and Adams. I got it right, Ms. Carleen?
Yes, sir.
All right. I'll now entertain a motion to close public hearing. So moved by Mr. Wendell, second by Ms. Chesson, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 7 yeas, 0 nays, 2 absences. Those absences being Grow and Adams. Item J, all the proposed ordinances are yours, Mr. Wendell.
Item number 5, proposed ordinance providing for 2021 supplemental appropriation 21-039 within the 2021 operations and maintenance budget and capital outlay budget, adjusting for year-end projections to be in compliance with the state budget requirements, and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer said transactions as provided by Article 6 of the Lafourche Parish Home Rule Charter by Mr. Jones on behalf of administration.
Short and sweet. Thank you very much, Mr. Wendell. Item K, resolutions. Number 6, resolution reappointing one member on the Fire Protection District Number 8B Board. This was going to be Mr. Adams for administration. Did he get with y'all about sponsoring? Okay, Mr. Wendell, go ahead.
Carol Boudreaux, 1 vacancy, 1 reappointment.
Mr. Boudreaux, sponsored by Mr. Wendell, second by Mr. Jones. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes with 7 yeas, 0 nays, 2 absences. Those absences being Grow and Adams. Item 7, resolution appointing one member on the Fire Protection District Number 8C Board. I'm assuming, Mr. Wendell, you have this one for the administration also?
1 vacancy, 1 applicant, Kobe Brignac.
Mr. Brignac, second by Mr. Jones. Any discussion? There being none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Is anyone opposed? Motion passes with 7 yeas, 0 nays, 2 absences. Those absences being Grow and Adams. Item 8, resolution appointing one member to the Recreation District Number 11 Board. Mr. Wendell for the administration. Who do you have, Mr. Wendell?
1 vacancy, 1 applicant, Ms. Nicole Terrio.
Ms. Terrio, can I get a second by Mr. Jones? Any discussion on Ms. Terrio's appointment? There being none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Is anyone opposed? Motion passes 7 yeas, 0 nays, 2 absences. Those absences being Grow and Adams. Item 9, resolution reappointing 2 members on the Fire Protection District Number 9 Board. Mr. Araby for the administration. Who do you have, Mr. Araby?
2 vacancies, 2 reappointments, the Harris Griffin and Mr. Glenn Second.
Mr. Griffin and Mr. Sapie, seconded by Mr. Wendell. Would anyone like to discuss these appointments, reappointments? There being none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes with 7 yeas, 0 nays, 2 absences. Those absences being Grow and Adams. And I thank those 2 gentlemen for continuing to serve on that Fire Protection District Board. Item number 10, resolution reappointing one member to the Fire Protection District Number 6 Board. Mr. Grove for the administration. Mr. Melvin, I'm assuming you're going to be handling that.
Yes, 1 vacancy, 1 reappointment. Ms. Buffy Bourne.
Bourne, second by
Second.
Mr. Wendell. Any discussion on this appointment? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Is anyone opposed? Motion passed with 7 yeas, 0 nays, 2 absences. Those absences being Grow and Adams. It brings us to item 11, resolution reappointing one member on the 5th Ward Gravity Drainage District Number 5 Board. Mr. Melvin for the administration. Who do you have, Mr. Melvin?
Mr. William McKees, 1 vacancy, 1 reappointment.
Mr. McKee, second by Mr. Wendell. Any discussion on this appointment? Or reappointment, rather. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion passes with 7 yeas, 0 nays, 2 absences. Those absences being Adams and Grow. Item 12, resolution reappointing one member to the Fire Protection District Number 1 Board. Mr. Melvin for the administration. Who do you have, Mr. Melvin?
Reappointment, Mr. Russell Pierce.
Second by Mr. Wendell. For Mr. Pierce, any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Is anyone opposed? Motion passes with 7 yeas, 0 nays, 2 absences. Those absences being Grow and Adams. And I'd also like to thank Mr. Pierce for continuing to serve on that Fire Protection District Board, of which I know he's been for a long time. Item number 13, resolution reappointing one member on the Heroes Monument Commission Board. Mr. Melvin for the administration. Who do you have, Mr. Melvin?
Reappointment, Mr. Michael Tardo.
Mr. Tardo, second by Mr. Wendell. Any discussion on the reappointment of Mr. Tardo? There being none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Is anyone opposed? Motion passes with 7 yeas, 0 nays, 2 absences. Those absences being Grow and Adams. Item 14, resolution approving an interagency agreement between the Lafourche Parish School District and Lafourche Parish Government Head Start to coordinate efforts for the 2021-2024 school years to identify and serve children who are at risk for developmental delays and or have exceptional needs, and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer said agreement and any all relevant documents. Ms. Chesson for the administration, second by Mr. Wendell. Any discussion on resolution number 14? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion passes with 7 yeas and 0 nays. 2 absences, those absences being Grow and Adams. I'm not going too fast, Ms. Corwin.
No, sir, I got it.
All right.
Thank you.
Item 15, resolution approving a memorandum of understanding between the State of Louisiana and Lafourche Parish Government for removal of Hurricane Ida commercial debris and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer said agreement and any and all relevant documents. Mr. Wendell will move on behalf of Mr. Adams for the administration, second by Mr. Jones. Discussion. Mr. President, you have the floor, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I know I've gotten some calls, I think most of you have too, about debris that's on commercial sites across the parish. So especially as they are along state routes. DOTD, even going back to Lauren Delta last year, has historically not picked up debris along state routes from commercial sites. They have asked the affected parishes to do it for them. Initially, we pushed back because their explanation was that they couldn't qualify who had insurance, who didn't. So my argument was, well, if you can't qualify it, how are we going to do it? And I don't want to be on the hook for picking up 500,000 cubic yards of debris and then FEMA come back and say it's not eligible for reimbursement and we have to eat that. So we went back and forth for a while. I guess about 3-4 weeks ago now, we met with FEMA, the state debris manager, our debris contractor, and said, all right, how do we work this out? So we actually, I think Bob did it. Bob got in a vehicle with him, and we rode the parish. We identified 55 commercial sites that qualify for the commercial debris pickup. These are not going to be your franchises like the Walmarts, the Taco Bells. They're not going to be the big manufacturing complexes. It's going to be the mom and pops up and down the bayou. So we qualified those 15 sites with FEMA. We pretty well sure that everything's going to be good to go. So when our contractor comes back off a Thanksgiving break, we're going to concentrate some trucks on those 55 commercial sites and pick up all of that stuff. So that's what this MOU does. We're gonna get the 90% back from FEMA. The 10% cost share is actually going to be picked up from the state. So we're going to get 100% of this money back on the back side of it.
Very good. And I know our state rep was involved in that because, and one of my arguments was that people were dumping on these commercial sites, residential stuff, because they were frustrated. So, but with that said, Mr. Lorraine, go ahead.
Yeah, I just want, Archie, you probably seen this. How can a pile of roofing be dumped on the road from the hospital road from LA1 to 32 to 35 in the middle? Then I noticed another one when you pass the veterans on 32, 35, when you make the curve, when they made that, well, somebody dumped some roofing there. Then when you go down the bayou more in my area, it's roofing all over the place. And that's, who's doing it? Somebody's doing it, but how do you catch them?
Yeah, I think the Deputy Delano over there caught somebody that night when she was driving. They were actually dumping on the end of 32, 35 and called the sheriff's office and we got it taken care of. Those type of things that when the state contractors are still rolling, they're going to pick that stuff up. Eventually, they're going to pull out just like our debris contractors are going to settle out and it's going to be turned back over to River Birch. And then we'll pick that stuff up. Hopefully it starts to settle down. I think people have somewhat gotten the message, but you still have those fly-by-night guys that are still dumping them everywhere they want to.
The service stations like that with them roofing nails, you know, I stay on the outside, man. I don't pass right by it, but I you know, every time I go ride, I see something different, more and more and more. Now, we did pick up a lot, but there's a lot more to pick up, and it just continues. It doesn't stop. So I don't know what's going to happen. River Birch is going to get caught with it later, I guess.
Thank you, Mr. Lorraine and Mr. President. With that said, brings us back to item 15. Any further discussion on item 15? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Is any opposed? Motion passed with 7 yeas, 0 nays, 2 absences. Those absences being Adams and Grow. Item 16, resolution authorizing the Lafourche Parish Government to join with the State of Louisiana and other local governmental units as a participant in the Louisiana State Local Government Opioid Litigation Memorandum of Understanding and any subsequent formal agreements necessary to implement the MOU, including but not limited to the Subdivision, Settlement Participation Form, and Exhibit K of the National Distributor Settlement Agreement and the Janssen Settlement Agreement, and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer any and all relevant documents. Mr. Melvin will be moving on Mr. Grove's behalf of the administration, second by Mr. Wendell. Any discussion? Mr. President, you have the floor, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If you could, I'd like to relinquish some time to Mr. Walter Leger, who's our attorney on this matter, and he can kind of explain to you guys what's going to happen from here.
Just remember to state your name and address for the record, sir. And it'll have to be specific to this resolution.
Mr. President, my name is Walter Leger, Jr. My office address 935 Gravia Street in New Orleans. I'll be very brief. Ordinarily, we're doing these in executive session, but so I will tell you what I think is not confidential about the settlement aspect. You retained our firm, along with Mr. Santana's firm, to represent you in the national opioid litigation. We represented you, by the way, also in the BP litigation, and we're very happy to have brought a very successful amount of revenue back to you for your use here. The opioid litigation is a little bit different. To give you just a little bit brief explanation, we represented the state of Louisiana and the state of California in the tobacco litigation some 20 years ago. In that litigation, a $250 billion settlement was reached on behalf of 45 states, no local governments. The money was distributed to Louisiana to the tune of about $4.6 billion. When the money came to Louisiana, the legislature took it and stuck it in the general fund to balance the budget. Didn't use it as it was intended to be used, to fight cigarette smoking and to fight, to seek to help people quit smoking and to fight cigarette-related disease. When this litigation occurred, many local governments also joined in it. In the United States, there are 3,000 counties. There are 19,000 municipalities, and all 50 states have gotten involved in litigation against the manufacturers, including Purdue Pharma, which you may have heard of, and many of the other manufacturers. A settlement was negotiated, and you have filed suit here locally. That suit was removed, as most of the lawsuits have in the country, to a federal court in New Orleans, and then ultimately transferred to the federal court in Cleveland, where over 3,000 local government lawsuits are being handled. You sued about 20 or 30 manufacturers and distributors of prescription opioid drugs for the harm that it's done to your community. And in Lafourche Parish and much of Louisiana, the harm has been relatively significant. In the last year alone, over 100,000 people have died of opioid overdoses in the United States. But in any event, Lafourche has had a problem proportionate to many other communities. Several years ago, the national group of lawyers started negotiating a settlement with the major distributors and Johnson & Johnson. There has been some litigation, some successful and some unsuccessful. That settlement boils down to about approximately $26 billion put together by these companies to be distributed over an 18-year period. It's then distributed to the states based on a formula based on opioid overdose in the state, opioid overdose use deaths, opioid use disorder, and prescriptions in the state of Louisiana. On that basis, Louisiana has allocated about $325 to $350 million, which will be paid out over an 18-year period. Then it's broken down into, we negotiated, and I led negotiations personally on behalf of all the local governments of Louisiana with our Attorney General. So we had to make a deal with the Attorney General as to how to share that money. In many states, the state is getting as much as 50% of the money, and the local governments are sharing 50%. If we were in a confidential setting, I'd explain to you how we got to where we are, but let me put it to you this way. We've negotiated the best deal for local governments in the United States. All of the money that comes to Louisiana will go to local governments. With 20% going to sheriffs, 80% going to the individual local governments. The state will be getting none. Because our argument was it needs to be fought here at the local levels, and you guys will be fighting it. You will get no cash, but what you will get is the opportunity to apply for grants proportioned to that same formula with respect to each of the parishes. And each parish is divided among the parishes based on the same formula: opioid deaths per capita during a period of time, opioid use disorder over a period of time, and opioid prescriptions. This parish, Lafourche Parish, will be receiving over $6 million over that 18-year period. You'll have the opportunity to apply for grants. There's as a part of the Memorandum of Understanding, which is referenced in your memorandum that we negotiated with the Attorney General, there are 13 pages of the types of programs that local governments can use to help fight this epidemic. You're also authorized to combine with any other parishes, but particularly we negotiated an arrangement whereby using Louisiana Department of Health districts, you can combined with Terrebonne and the other parishes in the district in which Lafourche is located. That's the essence of the very broad strokes of one of the most complicated settlements I've seen in my career. I think that's taken place nationally. It will involve literally 3,000 counties and 19,000 local governments. In Louisiana, nearly every parish has filed suit. We have to have an agreement by every parish, even those that didn't file suit, to get 100% of the money distributed in Louisiana. We've been touring the state, speaking to councils like yours. I have to admit, Mr. Chairman, I've never seen a meeting more efficiently and quickly run than the one you run here. That's essentially my report. I could go into detail that you want to hear about, but if there is anything you would like to know, I'd be happy to tell you about it.
Anyone has any questions from this presentation? Looks like we're good. Appreciate the information.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Anyone else would like to discuss this any further? Item 16. There being none, we'll move it to a vote. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion passes with 7 yeas, 0 nays, 2 absences. Those absences being Adams and Grow. Item 17, resolution accepting the low bid of to be determined, that's a blank, in the amount of, same thing, blank, to be determined for the project titled Hurricane Ida Bridge Repairs and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer an agreement and any all relevant documents. This will be moved by Ms. Chesson for the administration. Can I get a second? Second. Got a second by Mr. Window. With that said, everyone should have an amendment from the floor. And this is amendment from the floor to item number 17 by Councilwoman Delynn Chesson. That's who will be sponsoring it. And if you look, it basically reads that the resolution will now add and read as such: a resolution accepting the low bid of Sea Level Construction Incorporated in the amount of $1,183,601.66 for the project titled Hurricane Ida Bridge Repairs and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer an agreement and any all relevant documents. And so that, where it says a low bid of, that's going to be the low bid. Is that right, Ms. Corleen?
Yes.
So it'll be 1,183,601.66. And I'm not sure why they have it twice the blank on the original resolution. Anybody knows?
So you had to accept the name of the low bidder and then the amount.
So accepting low bid from sea level, okay. So sea level, that's gonna be the key, is the two items that we're filling the blanks in, and the amendment from the floor is basically stating Sea Level Construction Incorporated in the first blank, and the second one is $1,183,601.66. Everyone's clear on that amendment? Ms. Chesson, that is your amendment from the floor. Can I get a second for this amendment from the floor? Second by Mr. Araby. So, discussion on the amendment. Mr. Chesson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So if you guys notice at the back of that amendment, you have a breakdown of each one of the bridges and the cost. And just as a matter of transparency, and I know Daniel's gonna eyeball me when I say this, don't be surprised if you see a change order come through the council. I think as we delve into these bridges and the electrical systems, although Ben and Joe and those guys did a good job, there's no telling what we're gonna find, how much water really penetrated things and stuff like that. So we're gonna hope for the best, and hope this is the number that stays there, but just full transparency, you may see a change order here or there.
So from what I'm seeing, the two pontoon bridges are not needing a whole lot is what is anticipated, but the lift bridges are pretty sizable. Mr. Lorraine, you want to speak on this?
You took the words out of my mouth.
Okay. All right, good.
That's good.
Yeah. All right. Any further discussion? So right now, we are talking about the amendment, which is essentially going to be the same as the actual original one, just to get on the agenda. That's how we have to do it. So if everyone's clear on the amendment, that's what we're going to vote on. Any further discussion? All in favor on the amendment, signify by stating aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion passes with 7 yeas, 0 nays, 2 absences. Those absences being Mr. Adams and Mr. Grow. Now we are voting on the original resolution number 17 as amended. Any discussion on this resolution as amended? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes with 7 yeas, 0 nays, 2 absences. Those absences being Grow and Adams. Okay, item 18, resolution approving the purchase of ViewSonic boards for 11 Head Start classrooms and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer any and all relevant documents. Moved by Ms. Chesson for the administration. Second by Mr. Window. Any discussion on these ViewSonic boards? No discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 7 yeas, 0 nays, 2 absences, those absences being Grow and Adams. Item 19, resolution approving an amendment to the agreement between Arthur J. Gallagher Risk Management Services Incorporated and Lafourche Parish Government for a commercial insurance package as quoted, and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer said agreement and any all relevant documents. Mr. Melvin will be moving on Mr. Grove's behalf of the administration. Going to second by Mr. Jones. Any discussion on item number 19? All in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion passes with 7 yeas, 0 nays, 2 absences, those absences being Mr. Grove and Mr. Adams. Item 20, resolution approving amendment number 2 to the Subaward grant agreement between the Louisiana Workforce Commission, Office of Workforce Development, and Lafourche Parish Council, Office of Community Action for the Community Services Block Grant, fiscal year 2021 funds 10/1/2020 to 9/30/2022, and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer said amendment and any all relevant documents. Moved by Mr. Jones for the administration, second by Mr. Wendell. Any discussion on item number 20? Mr. Lorraine, you have the floor, sir.
Advisory board, there was a meeting scheduled last Thursday and they didn't have a quorum.
You are
Mr.
correct.
President.
You are correct, sir. It did not have a quorum.
That's exactly right. There's a process you have to follow with all this, and we're not following it. I'm not going to vote for this because there was a lack of a quorum.
Spell it out again, Jerry.
All right, Mr. Jones, you have the floor, sir.
Daniel, the resolution we did for stuff like this, we give this council authority to move on. So, I mean, if you're not gonna vote for it, fine and dandy, let's move on, let's
Jerry,
vote.
let me just say this. The last 2 resolutions y'all passed said that there was a quorum and there wasn't no quorum. And I supported it when I shouldn't have, but I'm not gonna get in trouble. This is gonna come to a head pretty soon. You have a process to follow and you'll never follow the process. This administration didn't follow it and the previous administration didn't follow it. And when the previous administration didn't follow it, you came unglued.
Daniel, I'm gonna tell you this, community action been running the best it ever had been. And you sitting back in the gap just complaining. This thing has been professional dead. And I'm not gonna sit up here and let you downcast the people that improving this agency. Now, if you don't wanna vote for it, that's fine and dandy. But I will.
I would vote for it if the process was followed correctly. It wasn't, and you know that. You know that better than me.
You hadn't followed a process
You know
in
that
20
better than
years.
me.
All right, here we go. Okay, so, anyone else wants to, one issue I have is that we can never get a quorum. What needs to be done? So this is, I'm 6 years, can't get a quorum. Mr. President, can you comment on that?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I had a conversation with Councilman Jones earlier today. Mitch and Amanda and I have had some conversations with Councilwoman Johnson from the city of Thibodeau, who's the president of the chairman of the advisory board. Their bylaws state that if you miss 3 consecutive meetings, that you are hereby removed from the board. So you're going to see some letters going out to those board members. As I put it to Ms. Johnson in an email today, if the board members don't want to take this seriously and don't want to show up, then we're going to go find board members who do. To Daniel's point, I understand there's a process, but if we can't constantly get quorums for these meetings, I'm not going to turn away money that helps our citizens for the sheer fact that a flat-out advisory board who has no legal determination, you guys as a council do, I'm not going to turn away money that can help our people if we can't get a quorum. So we're working on addressing the board member issue, Mr. Chairman.
Understood, and likewise, and that's been the excuse used for 6 years, so I'm just saying some kind of way. Mr. Jones?
Mr. Chairman, to let you know that this board has been meeting. This resolution, this contract came in after the last board meeting. So a board meeting was scheduled for last week. Actually, we had 2 people walk in the lobby, but the meeting was called off, all right?
It's closed.
But the next meeting is scheduled for January the 18th. But this contract needs to be approved. And this is $258,000 for this parish. Now, I want to know what councilman going to sit up here and turn $258 back to the state and let some other parish get it, and we not moving on it. And the people right here need it. Down the bayou, they need it.
Very good, thank you, Mr. Jones. Last comments, Mr.
I
Lorraine?
just want to say that at the last meeting, Mr. Jones said that we had blankets and heaters. We have no place to distribute that for people to go get it down the bayou. We have no place, not even a portable building. You think that they're going to drive to Matthews to pick up a heater for $15 and a blanket for $10 and burn $30 of gas? It might be distributed throughout the parish, but we're not getting any, because we have no place.
All right.
Dang.
Miss-
Mr. Chair.
Mr.
just to-
Araby.
Mr. Chairman, I won't be supporting this also, but I'm not against the $258,000 that our residents are gonna get, because I know we can use the money. I'm voting against the process that was done.
Okay.
And also, Mr. President, I'd like to have a copy of the last 6 meetings of that advisory board, if you don't mind.
Okay, very good. Ms. Chesson.
If we need a place to distribute, I have one.
Very good. Thank you for that offer,
Yeah,
Ms.
Mr.
Chesson.
Chairman, but also they've been up and down the bayou. The director and the employees been up with the vehicles down the road asking people, and they had been getting service. So just want to clear that up. But the heaters and the blankets don't have anything to do with this contract.
Well, that's what I kind of was about to say when I was about to gavel at, but very good. We got it. Thank you, Mr. Jones. Any further discussion? We'll move it to a vote. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, please raise your hands. You're yay. Okay, all right, just make sure. All right, so the motion passes with 5 yeas, 2 nays, those nays being Mr. Lorraine and Mr. Araby, and 2 absences, those absences being Grow and Adams. Got it, Ms. Carleen? All right, motion passed. Item 21, resolution accepting a grant from the Office of Justice Program in the amount of $16,847 and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer said grant award and any and all relevant documents. Ms. Chesson will move on behalf of the administration. Can I get a second by Mr. Wendell? Any discussion on item 21? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion passes 7 yeas, 0 nays, 2 absences, those absences being Adams and Grow. Item 22, resolution approving a cooperative endeavor agreement between the Lafourche Parish Sheriff's Office and Lafourche Parish Government to utilize funds received from the Office of Justice Program and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer said agreement and any and all relevant documents. Ms. Chesson will once again move on behalf of the administration, second by Mr. Jones this time. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Okay. Motion passes with 6 yeas, 0 nays, 1 abstention, that abstention being Mr. Wendell, and 2 absences, that being Mr. Grow and Mr. Adams. Good, Ms. Carleen?
Yes, sir.
All right, very good. Item L, parish president, department heads, directors, or managers' reports, presentations, and or updates. Item 23, finance representative to present the monthly financial report as required by the state agreed upon procedures for October of 2021. Mr. President, you have the floor, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We're going to pull up the PowerPoint. Yeah, give Robbie 1 second. Renita's actually got the closing quarter PowerPoint for you guys tonight.
First slide, please. Royalty revenue, the third quarter of 2021, LPG has received $318,095.11. In 2021, the third quarter shows an increase of $174,981.50, which is 122.26% increase compared to the third quarter of 2020. Road sales tax A. In the third quarter of 2021, LPG has received $1,335,715.46. In 2021, the third quarter shows an increase of $49,781.87, which is a 3.87% increase compared to 2020. Road sales tax 2. In the third quarter 2021, LPG has received $651,776.55. In 2021, the third quarter shows an increase of $70,764.72, which is 12.18% increase compared to the third quarter of 2020. Solid waste. In the third quarter of 2021, LPG has received $1,916,165.95. In 2021, the third quarter shows an increase of $135,291.90, which is a 7.60% increase over the third quarter of 2020. Parish transportation. In the third quarter of 2021, LPG has received $172,593.05. In 2021, the third quarter shows a decrease of $3,789.22, which is a 2.20 decrease compared to the third quarter of 2020. General fund balance as of the third quarter shows of $6,717,691. Drainage. They're showing a deficit at this time for the third quarter, $892,252.66. The library. They're showing a good fund balance of $8,031,032.74. Royalty. Did I do solid waste? Okay. Solid waste is a good fund balance of $3,206,263.57. Royalty ending fund balance is $1,910,329.11. All of these are just the ending, all of these ones I just finished showing you is the fund balance ending as of September the 30th. The next slide is a comparison of parish transportation and royalty. As you can see in parish transportation in 2019 compared to in the third quarter, and 2021 is running about the same of collection for parish transportation. And looking at royalty, of course, you still see the highest year is in 2019, and in 2021, we're running in second and compared to last year. Next slide. Road sales tax A, pretty much is the same, but road sales tax A in 2021 is showing the highest. In road sales tax 2, same thing, it's, I'm sorry, I apologize. The road sales tax 2 is running parallel with 2019, and 2021 is running about the same. In solid waste, it is our highest year in comparison to 2019 and 2020. Thank you, and happy Thanksgiving to everyone.
Thank you very much, Renita. Anybody has any questions on Renita's report? Mr. President, it looked like we collected somewhere around $7 million a year for solid waste. Just as a reference point, this storm is going to cost what in terms of debris cleanup, roughly?
Somewhere between 20 and 22 million.
Yeah. So thank God for those that blast FEMA. Thank God for FEMA. It would take us 3 years of all of our proceeds to pay for that.
Yeah, and we added it up. I wrote it down. I was going to cover it in a minute, but we added up just on a generic level all of the damages to public infrastructure. We're looking at about $107 million. Our annual budget is about 103. So puts it in perspective for people.
Yeah, with Renita's typo, if we got $1 billion, we'd have been in good shape. All right. Anyone else have any question of the finance report? Very good. Thank you very much, Renita. We appreciate that. With that said, brings us to item N. I'll kick off on the discussion. Mr. Lorraine, any and all final comments for this meeting, sir?
Yeah, I got just 3 short things. The Leeville boat launch, the hurricane hit August the 29th. Here we are, 3 months later. I text Archie about 3 weeks ago and asked him to consider trying to fix the road. The boat launch is okay. The pavilion's okay. The pier's gone. But you can't get to the boat launch. It cut across the road. This is a short piece. 4 or 5 loads of shells. I mean, you got the hunting season right now, you got the fishing season, you got people from Thibodaux, Lockport, Racing, use that, and they can't go anywhere. So I texted him about 3 weeks ago, and he texted me back, said he was gonna, the following week, which was a couple of weeks ago, work on it. So I didn't say nothing. I put a work order in, 11/4/21, asking him, and so far, I haven't gotten anything. So I'm just asking if they would try to repair it, whether people could use it. Some of these people, when I go to Walmart and all, they're asking me to go fishing, but
Mr. President or Dylan, can anybody comment on that?
Yeah, hold on. I'm gonna, by the time you get to me, I'm gonna email these pictures to Robin. I'm gonna show you why it's more than just a couple of trucks of
Okay.
limestone.
All right.
It might be 4 or 5, but we need to fix it. All the others are fixed. And I text you in a nice way. You text me back in a nice way. I thought I had something going, but I guess I thought wrong. And, but anyway, see what you could do, because this is the time of the year that fish are biting. And some of the, I mean, look at the Golden Meadow boat launch. We got a busted wharf. We got bass, got all kind of poles and wires, you know, but they still find a place to park and they go out, you know. But Leeville, you just can't do it. And a rush job would be fine until we could do it better. That would be fine. Next one, the hot issue is the Gallagher Bridge. Thursday's gonna be 21 days on a busted winch, the drum. I worked on offshore shrimp boats for 20 years. I probably did more winches picking up the net and putting them down than any bridge tender in the history of the parish. Because we fished 20 days, 21 days, come in for 2-3 days, go back out. And we fished, me and my uncle fished on a big, about a 70-foot boat, just him and I. And a winch either works or don't work. And very little can go wrong with it. Gearbox, the frame, most of the time it's the bands. Once in a while the drum. But look, that bridge is important. It's gonna be 21 days Thursday. I don't know, they did it on a Thursday, brought it to some shop in home or whatever. But it really concerns me because I get a lot of complaints on that. If something happens on the other side of the bayou, they gotta go to Golden Meadow or South Lafourche. And I said that last time, it means the difference of somebody having a heart attack could die or live, depending on when he gets there. And if anybody knows that, Orman, you know that. You're a fire rescue and chief and everything else. And so, I mean, come on. We've got to get this fixed. We can't keep dragging this. Tomorrow they don't work. Thursday's Thanksgiving. Friday they're not going to work. Saturday they're not going to work. Sunday they're not going to work. Is it going to be there Monday? That's almost a month. That's really uncalled for. To me, somebody's not doing what they should be doing. That's just my opinion. I can't put it any different.
You done pontificating?
Huh?
You done pontificating?
I don't understand.
You got an
I
update on
figured
it? Go ahead, Mr. President.
So they're rebuilding the winch, Daniel. Yeah, I'll get to that. I mean, I get it. It's been 21 days, Daniel. Stuff is going to break. It's stuff that's older than you, that is hard to fix, that we got to get rebuilt.
No, the bridge is not older than me. That winch was put when we rebuilt that bridge not long ago, aren't you?
You're missing the point, Daniel. I mean, nobody dropped the ball. Nothing fell through the cracks, although you want to make it seem that way. It just takes a while to fix stuff. I mean, when we got to, and look, we rushed this one. We were supposed to go get 2 other quotes. And I told Dylan, I said, it's an emergency job. Cut the crew a diagnostic PO,
Well,
and then once they tear it apart, we'll give them a PO instead of taking it to 2 other shops and having to waste another 20 days.
I hate to see if you wouldn't have rushed it, what would happen?
And-
Because it's going to take 40
This is where you say you're welcome.
Mr. President or Dylan, do we have an update on the status of it?
Where
right
we
now?
at with it? When is it going to be
Oh,
ready?
Yeah, Dylan will give us an update.
So tentatively, it's supposed to be ready the second week of December. I mean, we didn't want to release that until it actually shows up, but they were issued a PO to order the ports early last week. So all the parts were ordered and they started the process on what they could work on while waiting on parts.
So it won't be ready till the second?
Should be the second week of December. It should be reinstalled. Don't hold us to that, but that's by the time it should be ready and installed. And that's the best they could do. We tried everything we could with the crane company that's working on the winch.
Yeah. And number 3, you had 4 amendments that were voted on by the state of Louisiana, all the people in the state, and 1 passed and 3 of them didn't. So just remember what the people in the whole state of Louisiana said about dedicated taxes. Leave it alone. That's all I'm gonna say.
Thank you, Mr. Lorraine.
Have a happy Thanksgiving.
Very good. So happy Thanksgiving from the Lorraine family. Thank you, Mr. Lorraine. Ms. Chesson, you have the floor.
Yeah, I reached out to Archie about the lighting on the bridge from Golden Meadow to Leeville and that Leeville overpass. There's been a lot of bad wrecks on that bridge since the storm happened. No lights, no caution lights on the 90. And he said they went out this morning and took care of that for us.
Yeah, so we actually went out this morning with the help of Harbor Police and Chief Didon and his crew. We put up one of our big message boards that say caution, slow down, with the arrow pointing back toward the bayou, so you know there's a turn there. It has a couple strobe lights that kick on at night. When Gazette comes back, he was off this week for the Thanksgiving holiday. When he gets back on Monday, we're gonna send him down there, figure out why the actual bridge doesn't have power. I think Leeville just got power last week, so that probably had a lot to do with it. Get power to the cabinet, and then we can wire back up. There's one pole that's still kind of halfway standing when you get to the 90. So we'll see if we can wire that up with a light head on it. If not, we'll bring our light plant back down there and do like we did shortly after Zeta and just hardwire the light plant into the sensors and have it kick on and off.
And I did see the email today you sent out about the lighting going on in
Yeah.
our area. What's happening there?
Yeah, so all of you probably, if you didn't see it, you'll have it in your inbox. Energy, we asked Energy for an update on the street lights. So there's 7,000 plus or minus street lights in Lafourche. 6,500 of them are Energy's. The other 1,000 or so are ours. Gazette has been working with our contractor to order materials and get those things back up and running. Energy is saying their assessments will not be done until mid-December. And then they'll start the repair process after that. So I've asked them for a weekly update from here on out on the assessment process through mid-December, and then a weekly update from there on the restoration side. What really ticked us off, and Mitch and Renita caught it in finance, they've actually been billing us for all the streetlights. So our typical electric bill for the streetlights is about $44,000. So we haven't paid that. And they offered us a credit because by their math, only half of the streetlights don't work. Which I think is BS, but anyway, so we're fighting with them on the money side, but until they get most of the streetlights back up and operational, we just aren't paying the bill.
Thank you for
Thank
that update.
And I do want to encourage, if anyone is seeing someone illegally dumping on the side of the road, please don't hesitate to call the sheriff's office out, report that dumping, so we can get it stopped in our area. It's ridiculous. Like he said, the hospital street, all of 32, 35, they're just dumping it on anybody's property. They don't care. And I do want to wish everyone a happy Thanksgiving. If you're spending your holiday in the stands, stay safe, good luck, and that's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Araby.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I had a few questions earlier for Public Works Director, Mr. Dillon, but he discussed it with me prior to the meeting in reference to the Pelican Outfall Canal, the Gazo Outfall Canal, the Gaines Outfall Canal, and Mr. Boudreaux's Canal. So it's moving along at a snail pace, but it's moving, and hopefully we'll start seeing those canals get cleaned out. Also, Mr. Chasson, light in the front of the parking lot by Burger King. I got some constituents calling me about that, just concerned about it. That's our light, right?
Not the one in front of Burger King, no.
No. Right back the parking lot is leaning in the trees. You like me, you probably never saw it. I never saw it, but it was brought to my attention.
I don't. Yeah, Dylan's saying it is our light, so yeah.
It's kind of, thank God the tree is there. It didn't fall on no vehicles going around the drive-through, so, but I just wanted to bring it to your attention so you can add it to your list.
Yeah, Dylan's saying we're working on a plan to remove it, so we'll get to it.
All right, thank you. Also, I just want to like to wish all my constituents and the people of Lafourche Parish a happy Thanksgiving and a safe one. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Araby. Mr. Melvin.
Yes, real quick, first I'd like to thank the folks for their patience, because I know it's been a very trying process, and of course, some people, want things done yesterday, understandably, with debris that's being put by the road from redoing their homes, so thank them for that. The vac truck, do we have it yet? Okay, when are we getting it? I mean, I'd like to see it.
So the chassis will be here at the end of December. I think when we finally bid it out and we ordered it back in April, they told us about 235 days. So it'll be the first part of next year before we see it.
Okay. All right. Also, Dylan, did y'all take, there was some big piles of debris that went into 28 Orpin Canal behind the cement line ditch in the country club. Y'all look at that? Y'all remove that?
Yes, sir,
Yeah,
they were
okay.
removed about 2 days after you sent that email.
And what do y'all, are we looking at stuff, that wall's kind of separating from,
Yes.
Okay.
We are working on a plan to remediate that, yes.
okay, good. Okay, well, appreciate it, and I'd like to wish everybody happy Thanksgiving, and this year, due to inflation, I think we're gonna do a Thanksgiving, chicken.
Mr. Wendell, you have the floor, sir.
Just really quick, have a happy and safe Thanksgiving. Thank you.
Mr. Jones.
Yeah, one thing, just getting back to the word protocol, what our District 9 Council used, Community Action didn't follow the protocol. But on your presentation to Mr. Chatson, on the protocol, you said skip through it and get the winch fixed. Happy Thanksgiving from the Jones family. Be safe and be merry.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I know we talked about debris, but just to give you guys a brief update, we've picked up about 405,000 cubic yards of vegetative debris, about 536,000 cubic yards of C and D debris, so about 941,000 yards of debris. You will not see the debris contractors out for the most part this week. We gave them Sunday to Sunday off so most of them flew back home for Thanksgiving to see their families. They will be back on the 29th. So on or about December 1st, we are going to start the third and final pass north of the Intercoastal Waterway. Make one good formal pass through those areas, and then slowly by regions kind of turn that back over to river birch and typical grapple trucks, and then concentrate everything on South Lafourche. And I think there's still a bit for Jim, for you down in Pointe-aux-Champs. But for everybody north of Intercoastal, it's time to get your stuff out if you still have anything to put out. We do have a request for proposals that's due the first week of December for the black bags. So all the people who stuff the insulation and stuff in those bags, that's going to be picked up right after the 1st of December, once we release that RFP to whatever successful contractor that's going to be. On the housing front, on the state trailer side, we have 245 units on the ground. 134 of those units are actually licensed in with families living in them, with 13 contractors doing the haul and installs. On the FEMA side, we have 184 units on the ground. 55 of those units are ready for electricity. 47 of them are ready for occupancy, and 32 of those are licensed in. So out of 3,000, we have 160 that people are living in. So it's been slow, and we still fight with them every week on how to speed this up, but it'll be tough.
Can I ask you real quick, so with that said, I know there's permitting issues with all of this, as all kind. Have y'all increased the staffing of parish government to assist with permitting, or are y'all just trying to handle it? Because I've heard a lot, more so than normal, a lot of complaints coming in about permits, but I'm sure that they've got to be overwhelmed.
Yeah, we're doing about 150, 200 permits a day. About 80 of those a day are either FEMA units or trailer camper units. Tony and Brady and JY are doing their best to keep up. Adrian will go out in the field. I did have a conversation with Tony last week about when we come back from the holidays, if the numbers continue to pick up, we're going to request some assistance from GOSEP to bring in a couple different inspectors. But for the most part, I mean, we've worked through the issues with the FEMA trailers and snared that permit process down to the bare minimum. If it's hurricane-related damage, we've snared that down to the bare minimum. And typically, we're doing inspections the same day or within a day or two of when people are calling in, when electrical issues or stuff like that are ready to go. So we do get a few complaints. I have gotten them too. But if anybody does, look, you can call us, call the permit office, and talk to Adrian or Debbie, and we'll help you work through it. And the only thing I have, Mr. Chairman, is we still get calls, and we've tried to flush out a bunch of information. CSRS and their subcontractor Legion are still doing these substantial damage assessments on homes. So if you get a letter in the mail, you get a call from the call center. We are required by federal law to touch every home inside of a flood zone to see how damaged it was post-storm. So it is legitimate if you're getting those phone calls. We've tried to work with them, Dylan, to make sure they're keeping the appointments if people make them. I know that's still an issue. I got a couple calls this week about it, so we're working with them on that. We have a daily call with them, believe it or not, at 10 o'clock every day to talk through issues. So that's been brought up the last couple mornings again on the calls to make sure that people are keeping those appointments. But by all means, if they ask to go in your house, if they ask to go in your yard, you are under no obligation to let them in. They can do a cursory street review just on the outside of your property to see what's damaged. Helps us on permitting, helps us on dollars, because again, the more damage you can show, as messed up as this is, the more federal assistance that tends to come our way. I'll stop there so you can ask your question.
I had a call on Saturday or Sunday from a constituent that was concerned because the phone call he received, they were refusing to give him the name of their company, refusing to give the name of, like who they just said they were with Lafourche Parish, but they didn't have to give the name of the company. And I found that odd. I did get the phone number from him, left it on a note at my house, because I wanted to ask you about it. I mean, they are supposed to say who they are, where they're from.
Yeah, they are supposed to say they're from Lafourche Parish Government, and when you ask, it's gonna be a company, either
And their
CS
company name is?
Yeah, it's CSRS.
Yeah.
Or sometimes they go by the subcontractor, which is Legion. They're the actual inspectors on the ground. But you'll see them, they're wearing the high visibility vest when they're walking
And they
neighborhoods.
should have a badge.
They have a badge that says, has their picture, their name, the parish emblem, and then it says Lafourche Parish Authorized Contractor. So if you don't see those things, then no, it's not one of our authorized contractors, and it might be a
Have y'all
scam.
had any other complaints about it not being legit?
No.
Okay,
No.
thank you.
And then finally, Mr. Chairman, as everybody else, happy Thanksgiving. Y'all be safe.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Chesson. Yeah, so go ahead.
Sorry. Robbie, can you pull those things up real quick?
I should have moved on.
No. So this is the Golden Meadow, or the Leeville boat launch.
Yes.
You know, it's gonna take, Daniel, somewhere, probably a couple of 100 tons of rock. I mean, it's not as simple as doing a quick and dirty repair. I mean, there's a 2-foot drop between the wharf and the rock. I mean, we're gonna have to grub all of this stuff out, put the fabric back the way it goes, and then put the rock back in place. I mean, it's pretty tore up. And look, I'm with you, Daniel. I want to get it back open so people can fish, but just doing a quick and dirty job on that is not safe for anybody.
What if we don't ever get started, we'll never get it done?
Thank you, Mr. Chesson. With that said, I'd like to go back to thank you about the permits that you talked about, because our volume right now of calls is related to, my volume anyway, is related to debris. Same as Delin mentioned, a lot of debris is getting put in people's yards or along the highway that shouldn't be. And then lights. I've been blown up by lights in high crime areas, people with vision impairment issues. So I'm thankful that y'all are working to try to prioritize those. But anything we can do to kind of keep poking energy to move that along. As y'all know, we worked a double fatality just across the bay here, and there's just no lights on Highway 138, so it's kind of rough. I'd also like to thank publicly Mr. Paul Champagne, the one municipality in my district. He did accept an appointment after the resignation of our mayor, so we do have an interim mayor, Paul Champagne, now of the town of Lockport. We're very appreciative. He's a past mayor that he accepted and is serving as our interim. And then I want to mention that, actually I want to ask, there was mention of a gas donation by a company that was not South Coast Gas, $20-something thousand. So if someone is interested in applying for that particular grant, does that still exist? How do they go about? Can you publicly say how they go about that?
Yeah,
Who do they contact?
So they have to be an at-most customer, and they can contact the Community Action Office here in Matthews, 537-7603, and talk to one of the staff members in there, and they'll line them up with the application and get what they need from them.
Very good, thank you. Then I want to mention so on December 18th, if anyone wants to plan it, the Lockport Christmas Parade will be held at 2 p.m. It'll be a daytime parade, just because it's normally a nighttime parade, and for it to be a little safer with debris and low-lying wires and limited lights, etc. And then following that, there will be a movie night at 6 p.m. at the new community center, which I do want to mention. The community center, for those who don't know, has become very important in terms of assisting the local schools. South Lafourche High School, the girls' basketball and volleyball, all those competitions are being held at the Lockport Community Center now, along with some of the local schools. So, and I did ask Robbie if he could please promote and advertise that. But anyway, back to December 18th, 2 p.m., Lockport Christmas Parade. 6 p.m., we'll have Santa at the actual community center with a movie night beginning at 7 p.m. Free gifts. We'll be going to Angola. They'll provide the gifts like normal. And it's a big group putting this on. Lockport Christmas Parade, Grand Marshal Club, the Fire Department, Lafourche Parish Government's involved, LRD1's involved, Rotary, KC, American Legion, Disabled American Veterans, Carnival Club, the town of Lockport. So it's a big group. It's going to be hopefully a great function for those who can participate. We would certainly appreciate it. And then from the OTAN family, my wife and myself, I want to wish everyone a Thanksgiving. With that said, I will now entertain a motion for adjournment with no further business. The Lafourche Parish Council regular meeting on November 23rd, 2021 will be adjourned. A motion by Mr. Wendell, second by Mr. Jones at 5:59 p.m. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes with 7 yeas, 0 nays, 2 absences. Those absences being Mr. Grote and Mr. Adams.